Do you want to know the real story of what happened in Peru? Just take some minutes of your time. On the evening of November the 9th, the Peruvian President Martín Vizcarra was hosted by the Congress for Moral Incapacity.
Han votado a favor 105 congresistas, en contra 19, abstenciones 4.
The arguments to justify this vacancy were the presumed bribes that Vizcarra would have received when he was governor of Moquegua province. In an ideal scenario, Vizcarra would have been investigated at the end of his government for the crimes he is accused of, since they are not fully proven. However, this doesn't justify the vacancy of president only 5 months apart from new elections.
Por último, palabras de sincero agradecimiento a todos los peruanos y peruanas que han estado a mi lado y que han sido mi principal soporte en todo mi gobierno. Muchas gracias y siempre mi alma y mi corazón estará con ustedes. Gracias.
The Congress used the force of votes to put our country on the edge in the middle of a pandemic, economic crisis, and now a political crisis, just to satisfy the reckless ambitions of power. Even though it's known 68 of 130 lawmakers are being investigated from money laundering to homicide crimes. And who assumed the presidency of Peru? The head of the Congress, Manuel Merino, and now the de facto president of Peru. No country in the world recognized Merino as the president. Even the OAS spoke up. The OAS reiterates that it is incumbent upon the Constitutional Court of Peru to rule on the legality of the institutional decisions taken, as well as on any differences that may exist in the interpretation of the Constitution. How did the Peruvians react to this? By protesting against the vacancy and the alleged government of Merino and his cabinet. We held the 2 largest national marches in the history of Peru and Latin America. The first one on November the 12th, bringing together crowds in Lima and the provinces of Peru, also internationally.
Invocamos más bien a los manifestantes que mantengamos esta actitud y que definitivamente esta es una manifestación que la Policía Nacional, en cierta medida, va a mantener los niveles de control correspondientes sin ningún tipo que pueda originar algún acto de violencia.
And the second march of November the 14th, no doubt the most violent one. While protesters were marching peacefully, the National Police of Peru committed excessive repression, arbitrary arrest, abuse of authority, using lethal and non-lethal weapons against civilians.
Hemos ajustado al máximo en el sentido de ser lo más prudentes en el uso de la fuerza. No, el uso de perdigones está restringido, solamente es bombas lacrimógenas.
Pueden ver, la prensa no dice nada. Ahí viene la policía, mira cómo dispara.
Prohibido hacer uso de armas letales en manifestaciones. Descartamos totalmente. No está permitido por las normas aeronáuticas lanzar objetos y mucho menos hacer disparos de una aeronave.
Y yo no creo que 5 policías tengan que acudir a una persona que está caminando tranquilamente, como dice el señor.
Están los policías, se acercan, ¿sí? Ahí está, en este momento hay una persona, mire, está caminando. Levanta las manos, ¿eh? Usted sabe eso que significa en términos policiales.
Ya. ¿Usted me podría pasar el video de
en este momento?
2 minutos, no,
en
de
este
unos
momento.
de unos 2 minutos antes para ver qué cosa es lo que estaba haciendo ese joven indefenso que está caminando por ahí.
El día de ayer no ha salido ningún efectivo externo y esto se lo puedo asegurar.
Irrational and excessive use of tear gas bombs affecting children in the neighborhood.
Bombas lacrimógenas dentro del metropolitano donde hay un bebito ahí.
La policía ha botado una bomba lacrimógena en la Rambla, producto de eso el humo ha afectado acá a los pacientes que estaban haciéndose atender en el servicio de emergencia Instituto Nacional de Salud del Niño.
elderly who were not part of the march, national and international journalists injured while doing their job, in addition to dictatorial arrest of people who were printing banners for the march and banned public transport for everyone who wanted to go to the march. But the saddest part of all is that the police took 2 lives. The life of Inti Soteldo Camargo and Brian Pintado Sanchez, 2 young students who were killed at point-blank range for using their right to protest. Peru held 3 days of national mourning in honor of those who paid the ultimate price. It is important to highlight that according to Peruvian surveys, 3 million people took the streets to protest. Without a doubt, we achieved the largest march in the history of Peru. In the morning of November the 15th, after 6 days of protest, 2 deaths, and more than 100 people injured, long lists of missing people, and a formal complaint of sexual assault committed by the police. Finally, the first mile goal was achieved.
Quiero hacer de conocimiento a todo el país que presento mi renuncia irrevocable del cargo de Presidente de la República.
Merino never recognized the death, neither apologized nor assumed responsibility for the damage caused. Also, his prime minister said that he had no idea of anything that was going on. Human rights organizations presented a penal complaint against Manuel Merino, Prime Minister Antero Flores Arauz, and the Minister of Interior for the crimes of homicide, serious injuries, and abuse of authority. So, who will assume the presidency of Peru? 2 lists for the election of the board of directors were given to the chief executive officer of the Congress, one led by Francisco Sagasti and the second one by Maria Teresa Cabrera. However, Congress removed the second list after a lawmaker sent a statement saying that she was not aware that she had been included on the candidates list. Therefore, with 97 votes in favor and 26 against, Francisco Sagasti becomes the 4th president of Peru in a period of 4 years, taking the oath of office on Tuesday, November the 19th. Francisco Sagasti is an industrial engineer and advisor to international organizations. He was chief of strategic planning at the World Bank and president of the Council of Science and Technology for Development at the United Nations. He has also been a professor at universities in Madrid, Pennsylvania, and Costa Rica.
Y le doy un abrazo, emocionado. Queridos compatriotas, muchas gracias y que viva el Perú.
It is important to mention that for the first time in Peruvian history, we have women leading the presidency of the Congress, the presidency of the Council of Ministers, as well as 8 female ministers leading different offices. Although all of them are a small light of hope, the work of the president and his cabinet will be judged during these 8 months of transition, until the new change of government in July 2021. Finally, a few days ago, the Constitutional Court, the entity in charge of ensuring the correct interpretation of the Constitution, stated that the lawsuit against the presidential vacancy was inadmissible due to moral incapacity. What does this mean? That they leave the door open for the Congress to freely interpret the concept of moral incapacity in the future and attempt to vacate any president again, a terrible and irresponsible decision by the court that could put us back in the eye of the storm and end time.
It's been a long time that this country was so organized, fighting for the same purpose, raising its voice in the streets with squads of heroes, putting out bombs, healing wounds, and fighting for our right to democracy. 2 weeks ago, an entire generation decided to investigate the politics of our country and throw this anger into a conscious and responsible vote. Long ago, history had not been made this way. Never before, 30 million Peruvians have been so united. They call us the bicentennial generation.